But then on the one edit, I did leave. That one edit where we were so tired and it took us like 4 minutes to figure out what we were doing. And I meant to edit that all off. And then, so it's all on there. But then
The newest one?
No, it was the one where we were so tired.
Yeah, that's okay.
Olga's. But
Olga was a crazy poor lady.
She was. She had a rough episode too. So
yeah,
makes sense.
It wasn't. Yeah, I liked it, but we were just tired.
We were just tired. But okay, so welcome to the Distaff podcast. Do we have anything we want to say first? I feel like we haven't been.
Did we? We mentioned. Well, let's just catch them up. We can catch them up. But is there anything else we need to say?
No, just thumbs up or subscribe or like or something, or even comment, or if you're on Apple, comment or do whatever you do on Apple. I need to find out where all the Denmark people are, what they're watching on.
I know, it was an interesting one. Not an Apple one, but a different European one.
Different, distributor.
So.
Anyway, welcome, and today we're talking about, what are we talking about? What do you think we're talking about?
What do I think? Okay. Actually, what do you think we're talking about? Because I have it written, actually, what I think.
Oh.
Just edit that part up.
I think we're getting ready to get Gudrid. So she fell in love with Thornfinn last week, on last week's episode.
Yes.
She fell in love with Studley Thornfinn, with the fantastic pedigree of Viking heroes and legends and kings and all the way back. And then from northern Iceland, so he's a neighborhood boy next door, but kind of. And we talked about, was last week the sorceress? No, last week was
the mayhem of the revenant and the dead body.
Reckoning with the undead, yes.
Yes, a night spent with the undead and crossing themselves and should I talk to him or not? And
the corpse going across the floor to try to get in bed with Thornstein. I'm watching Walking Dead. I'm rewatching Walking Dead right now. I'm actually going to stop because I think it puts me in a weird state of mind. Do you ever watch Walking Dead?
No. I never got into zombies because it feels like flesh. It's too much of a flesh sack.
It's a total Hollywood makeup artist's dream come. Like, it's just a little much that way. But now that I've watched it before, this is my second time watching it, I can fast forward through all that stuff. I just like the storylines, like when they're gardening or trying to put up walls and stuff.
You like it for the landscaping advice?
What are the logistics of it? Yeah, when the camper breaks down. So I can fast forward to all the good parts. Anyway, why am I telling? Oh, the reckoning with the undead. So yeah, that's why.
So there's that.
But
well, who gardens then? Is it the zombie people?
Have to garden. So at one point they go and try to live in a prison, and so the survivor people have to garden.
So I've never seen it. I'm out of it.
They need to redo it where they don't do as many zombies and they do more like, how did you get the water up from the creek to the prison? Where did you get those big rain barrels? And,
you want the survival show. You want
what herbs are you growing? Yeah, because one guy saves everybody with elderberry tea or something, and so
I know. I that's why I loved researching this episode because we're kind of talking about them getting ready to go on their voyage. So
yes, so that's what we're packing. We're packing today, right?
We're packing. I have down Gudrid marries Karlsefni, and we're going to talk about him a little bit. I thought. Then they get married, and then they spend a winter making plans, like what they thought about where they were going, and then packing the ship physically and mentally. So it might be a couple episodes. That's
Yeah.
what I just thought. What did you think?
I focused on the sails, the ship
Oh,
sail.
good,
Yeah, so
good.
I'm ready to talk about that, and then focused on runes, but more
Yeah.
at the not to talk about today, but maybe start establishing a little bit in there, I don't know.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and then just ready to talk about how much we wanna talk about, where they're
Okay.
going and why they think they're going somewhere and all that.
Yeah. I mean, I did a deep dive on the shipbuilding, which
Oh,
matches your
good.
sail,
Okay.
research. That's kinda where I spent most of my weekend.
Yeah, mine was on sails and wool
Okay.
and
Okay, we're ready then.
okay.
Um, so at this point in the story, we have, we left you, as Sarah said, with Gudrid losing her first husband, and again, we think she's under 20, under the age of 20, but her first husband was married she married into the Eric the Red's family, and, there's 2 different sagas. We talked about how they kinda diverge a little bit with sources. One has her coming back to Brattahlid, Eric the Red's back to her in-laws, probably with Thorn her husband's body to make sure he's
Mhm.
buried,
Yeah.
and probably pretty sad moment of them coming home, and, one saga has Eric the Red dead already. Some say he died in 2003, others have him alive when Gudrid
With
comes back home.
yeah, and it makes sense because, again, and this is probably important to say now, in one saga, you have many trips, and
Yeah.
in one another saga, you have one major trip. So if it was many trips, he would be dead by now, and if it was one big trip, he hasn't died yet. Yeah.
What one do you think makes the most
I
sense?
don't know. I be honestly, I think it's many trips. I think that's the one that makes the most sense because they knew Thorvald was the oldest son of Eric the Red, and he all that whole time that Leif was, over in Norway, I think Thorvald was exploring Vinland, which is North America, and, the place I don't know, I that kinda makes more sense to me because they were
Mhm,
sailing around and going they were hunting for their ivory. I don't know how much raiding they were doing at that time. It felt like it was more exploring for wood, and I don't
mhm.
know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. So what we're talking about is, while Gudrid's coming from Iceland to Greenland those few years when she wasn't in Greenland, Eric the Red was established there with his family and his sons and his daughter, and this is the time that Leif Erikson they're on their is going. His older brother Torvald is exploring, um, and Thorstein, Gudrid's future husband, they're all doing the thing they're supposed to be doing, which is getting on ships and, um, to me, it's a lot of getting lost. Like, I kinda researched a little bit of what they would have talked about that winter during the winters, like, "Where did you go last summer? What did you
Mhm.
see?" Um, and a lot of it is they just set out and they find what they find, and that's how they found from Norway, they found Iceland, and they found Greenland, and they found North America.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, there's different you kinda think Gudrid probably had been on the ships with Torvald. I mean, other
No.
sagas no,
I don't
you
think
don't.
she went on those. I think it was
You don't think
I
she
no,
did?
mm-mm. I
Oh,
think
okay.
I think she went oh, I don't know. I no, I the way I understood it, maybe I'm wrong though, is that Torvald went on his own expedition. That was the one where he took that, I think, and that's where he got shot with a bow and
Right.
then brought back to Greenland to be buried, right? But the place he got
Mhm,
hit was called the cross, 2 arrow cross, right? Am I right?
mhm, mhm.
But I don't know. So it doesn't matter because as we tell the story, we can explain the variants, I think. We
Yeah,
can proceed with let's pack the ship.
yeah.
They know that there's a land.
Yes.
westward. They've heard
Yeah.
of it. People have reported sailing near it, um,
Hmm.
either because they were blown off course or because they themselves were kind of looking for it, but they know
Hmm.
it's there and they're preparing to go to it. And in one story, Torvald's already been there and died, but they have detailed reports of the landscape, right? Where to
Yeah.
go, kind of.
Yes.
Or in this one, if it's one grand voyage, they know it's there and they're just gonna go for it, right?
And Leif, the brother, Leif Erikson, has already been there and built a shelter, correct?
If we
Before
wanna say
Gudrid
that
go.
there's multiple trips, yeah.
Yeah, which I'm with you on that. I think that I don't know, just for a lot of reasons,
Because it
but
has to be because they asked to use his winter.
yeah. So
Hmm,
I think it's weird because Gudrid almost is fated, even though the one Torvald Eriksson's son dies, she heads to, the family up there in Brada Lead, where all they do is explore. So she's gonna go somewhere,
yeah,
I think, which is
yeah,
interesting. Okay, sorry, that's a lot of banter.
establishing.
Um, so yeah, so Neil Price, in his Children of Ashenem on page 482 says the story of Norse presence in Greenland and later the New World. So Gudrid again, she's called Gudrid the Well-Traveled, because as we're going to see in the next couple episodes, she will travel to North America in in the first decade of the thousands AD. Um, and this story of her doing that is preserved in two Icelandic tales, Saga of Eric the Red, Saga of Greenlanders. Price says they differ substantially in the details, but convey a broadly similar big picture of westward expansion. So, Gudrid, who are her in-laws? Who's living at Bradaleed? I kind of have um, I have notes from the archaeological dig of
Oh,
Eric's
cool.
thing,
Yeah, let's
Bradaleed or
do that.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, Says, and this is again from Neil Price, it says, remains of Eric's house have been found. It was an imposing structure with a flagstone floor surrounded by ancillary buildings, including byres for animals. Nearby stood a tiny turf church made for his wife, Theodhild, and
Mhm.
we talked about that last week. Price says Eric never shared her faith and remained faithful to the old traditions until his death, and their spiritual differences caused tension. Near Bradaleed, that was the site of the first Thing assembly in Greenland. And so his district would continue to be in prominence for centuries, with a
Oh,
later Christian focus around the bishopric at Gardar, founded in the next fort over. So um, Theodhild's descendants and Gudrid's descendants would be totally Christian later.
yeah, yeah,
So
totally.
anyway, for a guy who had been exiled and banished out of two, Norway and Greenland, he's done fairly well for himself. And I love that the archaeology supports,
Mhm.
a thriving place for where they all were.
Yeah, flagstone floor is pretty fancy, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. Yes.
Not a
That
dirt floor, but
they were the main, he had his own hall essentially.
yeah.
And yeah. So,
Cool.
and he also they had the dock down. They were very close to that main trading dock
Mhm.
that was coming in and out. So he positioned himself really well. So,
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah, and I picture this hustling, fun hub
yeah,
of yeah.
and an imposing structure, which is cool. Um, so what do we know do you want to talk about Carl Sefni a little bit? Explain,
Yeah.
or who should we talk about that's
Well, we kinda talked about him last time, just introducing he comes from, his family is from Northern Iceland, kinda mid-northern Iceland.
Mhm.
He's descended from Odd the Deep-Minded. on one line, and then also from like your Ragnar Lothbrok Viking lore and legend on a different line. So he's got the pedigree. He's grew up. He's a merchant, right?
Mhm.
So he's
Mhm.
whatever that is at this time. We're talking about 1000. So the peak Viking raiding age started at about 790-ish, late
Mhm.
700, 7th century. So
Mhm.
it's been 200 years of Vikings kind of establishing themselves as forces to be reckoned with. And so the fact that he's a merchant in my own head, um, I don't know if he was a raider or what else he was, a
Mm.
warrior or is he a savvy businessman. It's in my head. I picture him more as an explorer. The fact that they went exploring instead of raiding, on
Yeah.
this big adventure tells
Yeah.
me that they were not your typical raiding. But, then they go to Norway together, but I don't think they go to raid. I think they go to meet the king. So I picture him as not your barbarian raiding Viking. I picture him more as your dandy, like the word we use, but
Yeah. But
just
tougher.
fun, yeah, fun, adventurous, kind of breath of fresh air, I think, for
Mhm.
Gudrid. She just dealt with all that heartache and loss and crazy dead stuff, and he's
Yeah.
Christian. She doesn't have to convert him or. So,
Yeah. And there in one of the YouTube videos that Echoes of History, they show Karlsefni arriving at Eric the Red's
oh,
place,
really?
and it says he was a merchant who arrived in Greenland with 80 men and a ship loaded with trade goods. So that's a huge ship.
Yeah.
Um, Eric the Red, Gudrid's father-in-law, invited the entire crew to winter at his settlement, and because it was the only homestead large enough to house them. 80 men
80 men and all their stuff.
and all their stuff and their animals, and
Yeah.
I
Because
mean,
it's not just 80 men. I'm sure it's the women that go along too, you know?
yeah. 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 I'm
Interesting.
trying to find there's a really good um and I don't know, but there was a good description of the longhouse, the inside when they're all wintering, kind of cozy, but we can paint that ourselves.
Well, we
So
can
you
kind of, I mean, we picture you talked about the hearth last time,
Oh
and
yeah.
and
Okay.
and we can kind of describe it. I Some you enter from, so it's a longhouse, literally a longhouse, and some you'll enter from the center door, right? And some you'll
Mhm.
enter from the very far skinny end, depending, I think.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, it's dark inside. The fire is kind of the only source of light. I read once about how they treat the smoke.
Yeah.
I think it goes up through, but it's still covered, so there's just not a lot of light. There's no windows or anything like that
Yes, and it's
to speak
usually
of.
covered in turf. So
Yes.
they talk about it being damp. And if I'm yelling, I don't know why lately
You're
I'm
not
yelling.
yelling. Not at
I'm
all.
yelling a lot.
You're not at all. You think you're
um,
yelling?
yes. Like, "No, let
No.
me tell you."
But yeah, picture how musty it smelled and smoky, and that's where they cook food. It's where they sleep, eat, party,
Yeah.
drink, go to the bathroom, not too far away.
Yep.
Some places have an attached little bathroom.
Mhm.
Stables would be not far down the hall on the other end.
Yep.
And it's where they do laundry. I think in the winter time, it's where they're doing everything, right?
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
plucking chickens, butchering animals.
Mhm.
They're making babies, having babies.
Yeah.
So,
All in the one place with 80
mhm.
new friends.
And they
And
have the
so
beds are along the walls, right? Kinda
yeah.
it's similar to the Agawam or
Mhm.
those longhouses, very
Mhm.
similar.
Yeah.
Even platformed beds, I think sometimes. So you could just
Mhm.
have if you have 80 men, it would just be and slaves, and then you have There's a term for a woman that's actually literally lives in the corner. She's called
Oh,
a
that's
remember
right.
that?
Yes, I felt so bad
Find
for
her.
her.
Let me look.
Okay, maybe we
Woman that
need a
lives in
minute
the
to
corner.
find our
Corner hag. So it's a horn curling. The lowest person in the hall, and it's usually a woman, but it's a corner hag. And so this is the woman that just lives in the corner, and she's probably a slave or a servant or, you know,
Yeah,
probably not
yeah.
always a woman, but could be usually a woman. So she's a horn curling.
Wow,
So you
wow.
picture that. You have all of this busy, 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 and they're grooming
Yeah,
themselves and whatever, So
mhm. So there I mean, it's gotta be no wonder it would be pretty fun, but you'd have
I
to
think it would be
entertain
super fun. Yeah.
you'd have to have a lot of mead, you'd have to have a
Mhm.
lot of, alcohol,
Uh-huh.
and you'd have to plan for it,
A
and
lot of
so during
food.
at that time, they must have been doing fairly well if they thought they could handle 80 people.
Yeah, because remember there was a famine when Gudrid first got there and he wasn't
Yeah,
doing very well. He had to have help for her wedding with
right,
Thornstein. And
right.
so now here we are a year later. And if
Yeah,
the little sorceress lady was right, the famine was over. And so they must have been, unless Thornstein brought his own stuff too. Maybe he had lots of supplies and things to share.
yeah. So, I mean, one of the things you're mentioning, which links to well, I'm just kinda taking us to Karlsefni comes, and they all settle in. Gudrid's there, um, and it says during the long winter nights, Karlsefni heard stories about the land Leif had discovered to the west. Vinland, they called it. A place
Uh-huh.
with timber so abundant you could build entire fleets. Salmon is so thick in the rivers you could scoop them up by hand. So grasslands perfect for livestock. A place, this is Neil Price, a place worth more than trade goods, worth colonizing. So you're
Yeah.
right. They weren't just sitting there. They weren't as interested in trade as they were in
Exploration.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it makes sense because Greenland, they had already cleared off most of the trees in Iceland by then, by this time. It's been
right.
300 years, 200 years of Iceland.
Mhm.
And then they're probably doing the same thing to Greenland, deforestation and so they had to look beyond again and to live and to colonize. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's what
and
they were doing, which
make
is a
their own
different
way.
mindset. Huh?
Yes. Yeah, different mindset than the
Mhm.
other people,
They weren't out
which
to conquer, they were out to
mm-mm,
settle. Yeah.
which means they weren't necessarily warriors, except we know they could fight because Leif seemed
Yeah,
like he was fighting with the king, so they knew how to handle themselves.
yeah.
They also knew how to build a ship.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, did they though? Because they
well,
used her dad's boat.
yes, you're right.
But they obviously know how to build ships, but it's funny
Well,
that they borrowed Gudrid's dad's boat for this trip.
yes, and that's what made me interested in they did have the port city right by them, which I didn't realize how important that was. But so they had access to merchants and iron stuff and
Mhm.
people coming and going, and there was even a business set up down there to outfit people for their kit or for traveling. So to go on travels, they didn't have to start from scratch. They had a
Right.
whole economy built on that, obviously.
And do you wanna just mention really quick what these little towns or
Yeah.
hubs of commerce were?
Yes.
Because I thought that was really interesting. They
I did
started off
too.
it's not like,
Yeah.
um towns, right, that we think of. Like, in the Wild West, we think of a main street and then the businesses lined around it. It was set
Yeah.
up more as way a long time ago, just people would come with their products to sell and set up.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then somebody started organizing it and turned it more into like a square or rectangle.
Okay.
Do you remember this part?
Yeah, they
Boy, it's been a
planned it
while.
almost. I think
Yeah. Almost
yeah.
like a market or a fair or not
Mhm.
like a town. So when you picture these hubs for these Vikings
Mm.
and it's not they weren't doing it kinda like how the Europeans were doing it. It was more I don't know. But then
Yeah.
it's interesting because then it evolved to almost like a main street, a two-way, two-road main street. It's just cool how no matter where you are, these town it's almost ended up looking like a New England town, right? Am I
Yeah, because
right?
some of them even, some of them had their roads paved with pine boards or,
Oh, that's cool.
down to the dock, they lay rocks and flagstones in circular patterns so that the carts could go right down to the water to meet the thing, and so the whole little place, you're right, it was more like a yeah, like a fair where you come in and you
Yeah.
do your work and then you go home um, but if
And
I
then it just evolved into getting more organized. I don't have the diagram, I can't find it. But, yeah.
okay, I think I have it.
Where they separated it out into
Um,
almost industry.
yes, let's see. I'm looking at price, page 386. Um, well, this talks about sales, the textiles needed.
What is the book that talked about
Oh, here's the total sailcloth requirements for warships.
Oh,
There's
yeah, I have that.
this picture. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, maybe. It was like a handwritten I mean, this isn't important.
Oh,
It was just really fascinating. That maybe was
well,
it. It doesn't
yeah,
matter.
I feel like there's a lot I wanted to
She did
talk
it.
about that. Um,
Anyway, it was just cool to see just how much things almost boomed at this time and then how much they still kinda stay the same.
yeah.
Maybe it was in his Yeah, you're right, Kim. Oh, yeah, the fir it's called a ribe, R-I-B-E,
Oh,
and in the 8th century, so it looked like it's on page 289 of Neil
okay.
Price.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. That's it.
yeah,
These
so
beats and emporiums were manifestations of changing economic history, wider descriptions of, yeah, just what you said. Um,
so then it eventually they got organized and they put little areas of industry or blacksmith, and then it just at one part I just remember reading, "Oh, and then it turned into your New England town of
hmm,
residents up high," because the people wouldn't wanna go home every time, then they started to want to live, so
yeah,
you wouldn't just bring your stuff to this market, you would actually eventually live there where the trade
yeah.
was happening. So, it's cool, anyhow. Okay,
Okay.
topic.
So, where do you want to go? Do you,
Um,
I, I have, well, I can just say they got married and then we can talk about what, yeah, you say what you thought.
well, they
I
got
can,
married.
I can tell you my questions.
Okay, let's do that, and then I'll talk about the sales.
Yes,
About that.
okay. So
Okay.
my questions were, what did they know about Vinland? So what were they talking
Cool.
about? Um, why were they going? Um, and then I loved, okay, so, okay, let me just get them married and then you lead the way with the sales and then we'll just do it. So it says during, wait, sorry, I'm messing this up again. I'm getting back to the mess up stuff.
There's no mess up stuff.
Okay. So the Stefani, not Stefani.
So I call him Thornfinn because his name is Thornfinn Karlsefni, because Karlsefni
Oh,
means promising young man. That was his nickname. So it's more accurate to call him that. That's what he would have been called. I don't think anyone would have called him Thornfinn, but that was his actual
Carl
given name. Karl
Sneffney
Sneffy
is his nickname,
is
and
his
he was what?
nickname, which means promising young man or a man in progress or
Oh,
something.
okay.
Yeah. And
Um,
so and then his last name is my kitty's sitting on it. But
okay, okay. Well, anyway, they met in the longhouse, Gudrid's, and, I could see Theodhild and Eric thinking this is a good match, get her matched up right away with this merchant guy. Um, he he had 80 men. It would be a
yeah.
good reckoning. Um, the wedding feast doubled as the winter solstice celebration, so it happened right in the
Ooh, fun.
and one video, the echoes of history said this was practical Viking efficiency at work. Gudrid, a widow before the age of 20, made a decision that she would sail into completely, this is drama, unknown territory with a man she'd known for a few months to establish a permanent settlement thousands of miles from help. Um, yeah,
Yeah, but they're going with
yeah,
people she loves. That's not right.
yeah,
He's the one
no,
he's this odd man out. These are all her people he's going with.
yeah. And I think, I mean, there must have been a little bit of weirdness, but maybe not because we're the weird Victorian ones around.
Right.
My son just died, and now we're going to hit you up with this really great guy or
And
whatever.
for all we know, they've all known each other for a long time, right? At
True.
least they could have known each other in Iceland. They could have known Carl Sneffy. I could just call them Thornfinn, but they could have known him for a long time. So maybe it was because she had money. Her dad had died. And so
Yeah.
she wasn't like destitute. She wasn't going to be a burden on them, I don't think.
No, you're right. She wasn't because she had
Mm-mm.
Thornstein's half of his homestead.
Yeah. And then all of her dad's land,
Hmm.
because he got land when
Hmm.
he was
And her
there on
dad's
a
boat.
boat. Yeah.
But then you picture a group of 20-year-olds. None of them had children. So you had Freydis, who was their sister, who I think of her as like the anti-Gudrid almost. She's like the
Wild woman.
shield maiden, wild woman
Hmm.
of the group.
Hmm.
But you can picture them talking about Vinland and the possibilities. And when you learn about how many trees they need if they're gonna, if they're into sailing ships or whatever. But that would have been an interesting winter,
Yeah,
you
exciting
know?
winter. Something to look forward to, something
Yeah.
it would be another happy time, I feel like. And you're right,
Yeah.
this Yule feast where they was the Yule feast that Eric the Red was not didn't feel like he had enough to
Oh, it
so it
was.
was Karl Sneffy's men and his men who brought
Oh,
in according to one saga. So again, one saga maybe
yeah.
does it different. They have
Well,
but
I like that story because he right away had something to offer the family.
yeah.
So that would have probably impressed Gudrid.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay. So anyway, we have them talking about Leaf had been to this place called Vinland, and so they're talking about it, right? That somewhere to go, something to think about. So talking about going is one thing, and they would leave in June, right? Is that when they would normally leave?
mhm.
So they had about 6 months to figure it out. Let's talk about logistics. Like, what does it mean to go on let's talk about the sail.
Oh, you wanna talk about the sale?
Yeah, why not? I don't
Well,
know. I don't
yeah.
know. You need to talk because my brain is burnt.
I'll talk about the sale because it's symbolic. The sale isn't just a sale, it's symbolic of this whole time because these
Okay.
are Vikings, which are sea kings, which has the word sea in it. So they're picture all these boats from this, what's the word that's so fabulous? It's not diaspora. He used ocean, maraspora. What did Neil Frank?
Oh,
He did something that was cool. I mean, I'm sure he didn't invent the word diaspora, but he called it a water. So a diaspora is a spreading out of a culture, right? Am
yeah.
I wrong?
No, you're right.
Okay, so he kind of, I thought it was, maybe it's not him. Anyway, so you've pictured these people are making a world and a culture based on boats, river boats we know about over in Ukraine and Russia, um, even in Norway and Sweden. The whole country is basically just like a cracked land filled in with water and
Mm,
old glaciers. So boats inland, you would use boats, and then these big sea navigations. So I think before I read this and really got interested in it, taking for granted how these boats navigate, and it's the sails. And how do you make a sail? You
yeah.
just don't go down to REI, or I don't know where you buy sails.
Yeah.
Why not
No, yeah.
REI? And buy a sail. And you don't have I mean, fabric is literally the moving what's moving these people is fabric. And so
That's
it's
awesome.
yeah, and so then how does this fabric get made? And it's every book we've read that dedicates about almost a chapter, a pretty long part talking about this wool, and it sounds so
Yeah.
boring, but you have to remember that we're learning about these people from little poems or big long
Mm,
sagas or weird mythological Eddas and and how do you
mhm.
actually learn about so for a long time, they didn't actually even know how these sails were constructed. They had theories, but I think that's really interesting that we didn't even know
Yeah.
a lot about these Viking sails.
And part of the problem was fabric. We're talking 1,200 years ago. Fabric is one of the first things to decompose. So
Right.
they'd find ships in the burials,
But
but to
no,
find any kind of fabric,
right,
because that was always a question. They're open boats. There's water, there's seawater. What kind of clothes did they wear? But
right,
the main thing is really, you're right, the sail. That's
right.
the that's yeah. So how did they do it? And most fabric comes from plants, so they had to think about this whole cycle ahead of time.
So they thought about hemp. I think a lot of researchers thought maybe it was a hemp sail. I think because
Mhm.
in different parts, they did use hemp for these sails. But during the Viking Age, they every church, so then maybe not the Viking Age, maybe more the Christian Anglo-Saxon or whatever. Well, Viking Age too. The churches were required to have a sail in their church for safekeeping, which is cool. The
Really?
sails were so valuable. Not only did every boat was required to have 2 sails, so you always had an extra sail stowed
Mhm.
away, and then you had your sail that you used, and then every town or group had to have a sail in their church tucked away. And so there's a place called Trondenes, and it's a church, and I guess in World War II or something, the church was leaking, or at some point in history after this, the church was leaking, and so they knew they had this old-timey wool or piece of fabric sail, and they ripped it all apart and started shoving it into the leaks in the church, and then
Oh,
time went
wow.
on, and then eventually somebody realized, "Wait a minute, this is a Viking sail that we just used to plug up all these holes, and now we're gonna put it back together." So it's called the Trondenes sail, and
Wow.
from this one sail, think of all thousands and thousands of Viking ships for hundreds of years, this one sail kinda answered everything to them. So then you
Really?
had these groups of museums. You had the Viking Ship Museum in Denmark. wanted to reconstruct the sail, and they wanted to do it as correctly as possible, because then they
Mhm.
were gonna learn what the sail's made out of, what the process is to create the sail, how much time it took, how much manpower it would take, how much time did this culture dedicate to sail making
Yeah,
in their
yeah.
daily life, like, and it's massive. I hope I wrote down
Mm.
everything right because I got to reading. Um, so the research project is cool, and it's written down, there's 2 different parts, but mainly the one I read that I think she tells the cutest version of it is in here, but I know
Oh,
you
okay.
this so Heather Pringle, the North Women,
Mhm.
talks about it because she actually met with the woman Amy Lightfoot, who's of the Tomervik Textile Trust on Hitra, which is an island in Norway. She
'Kay.
helped do this project where they were going to recreate a Viking sail. So how fun. This is in the 90s,
No.
1990,
I know.
and they had to do it accurately. So
With the
the
tools
first
that they would have used and all that stuff.
everything, the
Yeah.
sheep, the first they had to find the right kind of sheep because these are ancient primitive sheep, right? They don't the sheep we have nowadays, I guess, are not the same sheep. Did I write down the kind of sheep it was? I don't know if I did. But anyway, it's a primitive breed short tail sheep. So they found those.
Mm,
And then what's unique about these sheep is they have a 2-layer, their wool is in 2 layers. There's a bottom layer that's very soft, and then there's a top layer that's kind of longer and coarse. So the
mm.
first thing Viking people, and we know that it's women, mainly they had women would have be doing this, women or slaves or children, had to go, and you don't shear them. There's no buzzers or clippers.
Yeah,
You have to
yeah.
actually rip the wool off the sheep's back. And there's a
Really?
word for it. I don't have the word.
Did that hurt
Oh,
the sheep?
ruing.
Rue
No.
Oh, you'll rue the day.
Oh, yeah, it's ROO, ruing. So,
Oh.
these women in the 90s, this group of people went to all these places where they have all these sheep, and they started pulling. They would spent a long weeks or whatever pulling the wool off these sheeps. And then once you've done that,
Are they
then you have to
screaming and running
I don't
around
know.
and
There's probably a documentary where they filmed it that you could watch.
hey, wow.
But picture these Viking women, that's their job. That's out there. There's a certain time
Yeah.
that you would do it, a better time to do it.
Mhm.
If some people say if you've used the wool from a sheep that's never had a baby, her wool is healthier. So it was like a status thing to have gloves made from a virgin wool. So
Wow.
that um
Wow.
So yeah, so they would pull all the things. So then these modern women who are recreating it then wanted to do the next correct thing, which is that you would have to hand separate the soft lower part from the upper part. And
Okay.
you can't do it unless you're in a warm place. So you had to go into a place, and I picture they were doing this maybe in the longhouse. They did have different centers called
Yeah,
dingers.
the women's center.
Yeah, and these are weaving centers, and it's a textile workspace. I don't know where they would have done this part, though.
Yeah.
Maybe they would have, but,
Well, how
or
many
if they
sheep are we talking for one sale? Did they have to rue? Do we know
um,
that?
I didn't write that
And
down.
maybe that's not a good question.
It's a great question, and I can find out. But obviously, if you're talking about this whole time, I mean, sheep would have been huge, right? Throughout all of Scandinavia.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, Flocks and herds and herds and herds because I this is trying to make one sail,
Okay.
to recreate one sail, and this sail happens to be the size of 20 king size beds put together, so it's huge. So it would have been for a big, big boat.
Okay, so
It's
I just
huge.
pulled it up. It says
Okay.
based on historical recreation, it took roughly 200 to 700 sheep to provide enough wool to make one large woolen sail.
Okay, so that much, so
And
that's how
just
much
like
the women had to go So then, in order to separate the wool, the hard wool from the soft wool, you had to do it in the warmth because they needed the lanolin to get released from the wool.
Oh,
That would
yeah.
make it easy to separate. You couldn't do it in the cold. So these women went into a cabin or something with wood burning stoves and just spent weeks in this pulling wool and the slippery lanolin. And the Viking women would have, had to do it either in the summer but it was what we find out this is a ongoing. It's not a seasonal production. It's
Okay. Okay. So they're
around.
doing it all year
Yes.
long.
Yep. Um. So then, after you've separated it, then you have to spin it. And these women will use spinning wheels. I think we know. Depends on how far back you're going.
Yeah.
Spinning wheels have been around a long. They're definitely medieval.
Mhm.
We could even go back further than that. Assuming you have a spinning wheel, that's what you would have done. But if not, you're using your distaff and you're
Yeah, and you're
spinning
spinning whorl and
nonstop. You've got your stick, your wool, and you're spinning with your stone, and it's pulling the tension of that stone spinning is having you make the thread, the wool yarn.
and
Oh.
yeah, and, I just read I don't know why I read this last night, but in England and Ireland, they would spin their wool counterclockwise. The Norse people would spin it they called it around the sun, but clockwise,
Oh,
because
interesting.
it creates different sheens and stuff, I
Huh.
guess.
I believe that.
So,
That's
yeah,
interesting.
so
Oh,
they would have been doing it round the sun,
round the sun. Yep.
I guess. But think about every step in this process.
Yes, and this is not even the worst part. Like,
Okay.
that's still lovely. So to get enough yarn to make this sail, you need 116 miles of yarn to make this one sail. So, make sure I didn't skip anything. La la la. So then this group of people, again, it's headed out by Amy Lightfoot. Um, when then you weave it, then you have to start weaving it, and this is where they used looms. And these women, again, they used modern looms to do it because otherwise it would take forever. And then after you've woven it and you have actual fabric,
Mhm.
then you have to soak it in salt water. So you have to dip
Oh.
all this wool fabric in salt water to kind of treat it. It's called fulling, Full,
And would
fulling.
they, how would they weave that large of a sail? A
Part
100
in pieces,
square
part.
oh, in pieces, okay, got
Yeah.
it. 'Cause they just had upright looms, I think. They didn't have
Yeah, but there was a specific way they had to weave it. They would use the coarse wool for the
Oh,
downward weaving
okay.
and the soft wool for across because they found out that the coarse wool can handle the buffering of the wind. Is that the right
Wow.
word? Buffering of the
So
wind.
they had it like a waterproof almost
Yes, and then the
layer.
cross wool was felted. So what this fulling was doing when they dipped it in the salt water and then they would rub it. They had stones. I actually was more organized than I thought. I actually did this.
You're
But,
always organized.
so it's kinda like felting. You're felting the soft wool,
Okay.
which makes it like felt. It makes it's so fascinating. Felting, I'm
Mhm.
just gonna say, is
No,
so
yeah.
fascinating. Like, here's a piece of wool that's 100%. This is my nail binding thing that I'm
Okay, yeah.
making. Here's my whalebone.
So Sarah is knitting the old way before knitting needles, the old
Yes, I'm
Norse
trying to
way.
learn. But this is a piece of wool, and unlike other yarn, you can rip it. See, I just ripped it.
Oh, yeah.
And then to put it back together, you fray both ends of this wool. It has to be 100% wool. So this is what they're
Okay.
kind of doing at this point is felting it. And then you would water it. So this I imagine is what the salt baths are for.
Okay.
And then you have to rub it together. and now I've just put my wool back together.
No way.
So that it binds it. The somehow that water, the moisture makes you have so that's the process they're doing with these sails. It's very similar to how these you work with wool,
And
and
that
in
would
knot
be
binding, you use one thing, and you just felt back together the for a continuous piece of yarn. Does that make sense?
yes, so it all the fibers are kinda welded together then
Yeah, and this
in the
last
finished product.
process, they're getting it all so thick and strong and put together to make this sail. Picture how heavy it was. So these
I
women that did it, the recreation women had to lift these big, heavy s swaths of fabric out of these barrels of salt water, you know?
They had barrels of salt water for each piece, and you soak them for a few days, you said?
It says, yeah, it was grueling, exhausting work hauling heavy cloth in and out of barrels of warmed salt water,
Hmm.
winding small sections of the sopping wet cloth on a roller stick, and heaving a big wooden board stacked with 90 pounds of stone back and forth over the roller like this to felt it. And this is our modern day
Wow.
women because they did take some they did understandably had to take some corners, like using the loom and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and then the final treatment is taking they used horse fat. This is the part you were saying where they smear something on it. Horse fat, yellow ochre, and water, and then using glass stones to kind of rub over it, and that's what turned them beautiful. They were pretty color. They're kind of a yellow
Oh,
golden color. So all these sails
okay.
are like a golden color, unless you wanted to. We know that they would also dye them different colors too if you wanted to. Like
But
they
I
were
mean,
into that.
that takes some organization, some coordination. Are you saying all the sales were produced nearby where the maybe, maybe not, but were most if you saw a Viking fleet, would they have color differences in their sails, or did they try to keep them all that
I think they
ochre
had
color?
differences in their sales. I think so. I
Okay.
think this is I think that they eventually I don't know, I don't know. I actually don't know. But I know that I've heard that they have different colors.
Yeah.
And the way that the sails were designed, this pattern of coming up and down and across was very different than how all the others so if you knew a Viking ship, even just
Huh.
based on the weave of the sail. Um, so in September 2000, the Viking Ship Museum, the crew of the Ottar. So I think they rebuilt a ship, and then these people were in charge of the sail,
Yes.
um, used it and headed out, and they used the sail. In addition to the sail, the people also made their sleeping bags out of the wool, which is doing
Oh.
weaving, but then leaving the rough parts of the wool out instead of tucking it under, so almost like a fur-like, but you would
Uh-huh.
turn it inside out and sleep in the fur part and have the treated wool on the outside. They made them a hood, which the Vikings' hoods were big. It wasn't a hood just for your head, it was for your whole shoulders where you could throw it over and the weight of it kind of would cover. So the people that did the recreation wearing these authentic wool clothing said it was great. Like they were comfortable, they were warm, it dries really easy and
Really?
quick. Uh-huh.
So, 'cause that's what I wondered because, in other survival situations, like, let's say you're up in the Nordic or Alaska or something, that you're gonna if you get wet, you're almost doomed. You have to
Yes, right.
warm your clothes right away, you have to your sleeping bag is you're
You're
basically
gonna be
dead,
hypothermic.
and
Yeah.
so I couldn't understand why if they're sailing in the North Sea all the time in these open boats, how they didn't so you're
Die.
saying this fabric was
Mhm. They did
protecting
amazing things with wool. I mean, they even have armor clothing where they use wool and different kinds of resin or something on layers that you could make for your son or your man that actually could protect it was almost like an armor.
them. Okay.
And, so that was amazing and wonderful, and,
Yeah.
they learned a lot from that. However, they really did wanna know how long it took to not use a loom, not do it the old-timey way, a warp weighted loom. Let's see, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
what they found out that it would have consumed for one person to do it, it would have been 10,269 hours of labor. And it was mainly done by women. No, where's the bottom line? They could weigh up to nope, the blankets they took with them weighed about 40 pounds. So think how much these boats had to be really strong to handle these sails, the men, the equipment, then their clothing was really heavy. The blankets took 6 months to make. La, la, la. So how
Did
long did it take? It took, yeah,
um
6.8 years for one person. If one person made a sale, it would take them 6.8 years. So obviously it was not just one person. It wasn't one woman making a sale for her husband's boat. It was a full-on industry. So
yeah, because
that's the
if you have the largest ones could fit, I think one of them said, what did the one say? 200? No, that's not true. The largest ones could fit about 80 to 80 people, maybe.
yeah,
60 to 80,
but normally about 30 people. But
normally
yeah, big.
30 people. So
And by
each
fit, it could mean comfortably fit. Who knows what
yeah,
they did when they had slaves and stuff to take, like, when they were just making a run home.
well,
How
and their sheep and cargo and all that kinda
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, they weren't into comfort,
No. Very
but maybe yeah. So, did each ship have 2 sails, you
Yes,
said?
every ship had to have 2 sails, a spare sail and a regular sail, and the cool thing about the felting is it made it so that if there was a rip or a tear mid-trip,
Mhm.
you could do the process of repairing your sail by felting it back. Not cool?
Like
You didn't have to, like,
skin.
sew it back, you could just felt it back
Okay,
and
I
then
wondered about that.
repair
Yeah.
your sail. Mhm.
So, okay, so
Brilliant.
what's interesting yeah, and so they were probably sales were probably generational then. Were they
I think
did they
so.
survive a voyage or
It
did they
sounds like it.
they didn't rot, I don't think, because the wool has that protective
It's
properties.
amazing that they didn't find more of them in these burials. But yeah, they would rot. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't actually look up how many have been found or enough, or I don't think in these when they did the ritual burying of the boat, I don't think they had sails with them.
They had tarps, I think that they covered them. I don't know why I know that, but they did. I
You're
got
yeah.
in I got into another recreation that happened in Norway. They built it, but it was more focused on how the ships were built,
Yeah, see,
not
that's
so
cool.
much the sails. And they used a satin, not a satin, a silk sail,
Mhm.
which they said, "Oh, that's how royalty," and I'm sure they did because they had the East. They
Yeah.
had, places everywhere, but it ripped their first time out. So
Oh,
that got me
really?
thinking that had to have just been decorative. So they recreated it's the dragon. They recreated tried to recreate the ship that Gudrid and those guys they don't even mention Gudrid once in the video, but that they would have taken to Vinland.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay.
they are recreating that voyage, um, with a sail that's silk and ripped. So they never discussed why they didn't do the wool thing.
I wonder what year they did it.
It's like 2000, so it's really
Oh,
recent. Yeah,
because that's the same year they did this otter or boat. Or
but I
maybe
would
they were still making this big sail. I don't know.
yeah,
That's
it took
cool.
them a long time. So, okay. So
Yeah,
what
it does talk about
fascinates you the most about the sail?
what's that?
What what is it about the sail that fascinates you? Or what
Well,
else did you
she
think about?
did a beautiful job, kind of explaining that, yes, this took up all the time. Just took up amounts and amounts of time. So if you're a woman, you have the keys to the farm, keys to the longhouse, you're in charge of the logistics, you are running your farm, your home, your family, and then also you would be in charge of sail making and weaving and clothing making, and that means you're in charge of sheep and just it's you're in charge of all of this stuff. And she kinda in the end, I even highlighted it because it was so sweet. Heather Pringle does a lovely job. That it was just an enormous undertaking, that their tools, their amount of time, la, 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 la. They were even making battle gear, like we said, they were making, um, gloves, they're making hats, they're making all these things in the same time as they're also have this underlying urgency of a sail industry, of this industry of the sails. And she talks about how it was in her mind, it would be because I guess if I'm sending my sons on a boat, it is a labor of love. Like, I think she's obviously but it would have been a labor of love. You would have and
Yeah.
this enterprise of these Vikings going out I would know that I am the one actually once again, the women facilitating any adventure or voyage or anything a man can even dream of, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. And what I love about the Norse is, um, people try to categorize them, like, are they the polarized indigenous? Are they more the Sami? Were they more influenced by that type of culture or the European or the Germanic? And both of those cultures had a divide between women and men's roles in everything, and the Norse, for some reason, that they're finding that divide is less distinct,
they're
and so
very so
it's
many
interesting.
similarities to compare. Yeah, the
But if
Samis
you
and then even you go to the North American
Yeah,
tribes and
yeah,
clans.
and it
Mhm.
and for some reason, they didn't adapt that. Maybe it's because they needed all hands on deck, pardon the pun, but or they didn't have machines, they needed everyone.
Yeah,
The
everyone had a
men the
job.
men could the men could knit if they needed to, the men could bake bread, all the children grew up watching all these industrial activities, and it would have been so fun to
Oh, I
think about
know.
everyone's, like, doing something and building things and making it pretty and making it innovating
Yes,
felt, and, we even have
because
an ancestor, this is later Denmark, 1800s, who was known for her innovative socks she would knit that became waterproof because 'cause she'd knit in strips
oh,
of leather in them, and so they were always innovating different ways for their people to go do things.
yeah. And to think, like, the most exciting part of any book or story or anything is for me, is always like, we're talking again, like The Walking Dead, is the preparation, the getting
Yes.
ready for winter, the
Yes.
fortifying your home to the preparation. I mean, even coming home from the grocery store, that feeling after you've stowed away all the cereal and,
Mhm.
"Okay, wait," it's that feeling, and I feel like it would be a perpetual state of preparation.
Yeah.
Which would be exciting, I think, and feeling like you're part of this big, exciting movement that is happening,
Mhm.
and, um, I don't know, it says that, there's a quote, a Latin proverb that says, "To win a war quickly takes long preparation." So it was also kind of a sign of they didn't see themselves as a flash in the pan or that this was, a quick trip here, a quick raid here, just like in Thornfinn or his first name is Thornfinn, but
We
Gudrid
can call
and
him Thornton.
okay, they were going to establish a home
Yeah.
and a place and a land on this other continent. They didn't know it was a different continent, but well,
Yeah.
they might
They
have
had
figured
no
it out.
idea. They had no idea what the heck
Yeah.
th where they
By the
were.
end of it, I think they maybe knew it was a bigger
Mhm.
but, yeah, so that's the
Well, and
sail.
you're right, and you know what's neat is in learning about the actual shipbuilding, that's been hard for them to recreate too because of all they weren't sure how their ships could even go because they seemed to, like, float above the water. They kinda
Mhm,
had
they're so
slow
flat.
sides and flat, and they're learning by rebuilding it how interesting so these ships are huge, made to go over the North Atlantic, to go to China and Asia and down sail on but they didn't have the big long keels that
Mhm.
normally keep a sailboat upright. They were almost the keel was the whole boat, so you could go in a river and get all your oars out and go up the river and take Paris, or you could use that same ship
Yes.
to go across the Atlantic, and then when you get across the Atlantic,
You could go
you
up the river.
yeah, this group that just recreated the Dragon ship did go across, and then they were proving how far the, Vikings could have gotten into America, so they went down Vinland,
Mhm.
and they actually got into the Great Lakes with the same ship. So it could do canals, it can do oceans with the same sail and the same oars,
Yeah.
and so, I mean, they really were preparing for anything,
Yeah, they
you
could go in
know?
really shallow water. No wonder they took England so by surprise, 'cause
Yeah,
they could row up and then just keep on rowing
and there
and
was,
get way in there.
yeah, and I was for some reason, I was reading about the all things or the sacred spaces where they would gather, and one of the reasons they would make sure they they had their gatherings in the stupidest place for a battle you could ever think of. So, it was a place where anyone who knew about war could stand there and say, "I have 80 ways to exit this. I can exit in that river over there, I could exit in the dock, I could" um, which I thought was interesting because 'cause you've got
That's
a
cool.
civilization of people that are prepared for anything,
Yeah.
and, you know, you they even got together on a piece of land that no one could screw them over because they all knew everyone could escape
Mhm.
in a million different ways.
Sorry, let me make it.
Anyway,
That's, so hold on, go ahead. So you're saying that all things were on pieces of land where they would never be able to have a battle?
yeah, because
Interesting. So is that why they always had them in
strategically
groves and things like that?
and big open places where you could see a ship coming over the horizon, you could see
Okay.
you had a mountain behind you and you knew they couldn't. Like,
Okay.
it wasn't a great place to have a battle, so that's a good place to have a community
Yes.
meeting because you couldn't fight very well.
'Cause what a great opportunity for an enemy to come take out everybody in one swoop.
Mhm, mhm. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I just think just the preparation, and then you think about when we were little and we'd play and you'd keep playing out in the woods or something, and you'd be starting to I would realize I would start well, I was a weird little girl probably, but
We
as you
both
start
were.
to learn how to climb up a tree or you learn how to make something or you're playing with rocks and you get better and better and better at it, I loved that thing about how pretty soon I could do something I could go as high in the tree that I didn't think I could get up there, but I figured it out, but it took a few days
Mhm.
and I thought my job as a kid is to play. This is my job. And I'm thinking if you're in that homestead, how many generations it took to learn. Let's dip this wool into the salt water. Let's rub it
Yeah.
with this rock. And, it's so innovative. But think about all of doing a stupid job. Like, let's play with the sheep wool in the salt water and what it turned into. I
Yeah.
don't know, that's a dumb thing,
I
but
always
it's
think
kinda
about that. How do
interesting.
they come up with these things? Like, how do they and a lot of it, I don't know, there's studies done on the importance of play. But
Mhm.
a lot of it, if you wanna make the childhood be a time of play when they were discovering all of these things, I think it and your region that you're in and the tools that you have and, you know, how did they figure out that felting? Maybe it was some kid messing around with the wool and,
Yeah,
you
doing it
know.
wrong or I mean, it's
Uh-huh.
just so many layers of wisdom over generations
Mhm.
to figure that out, and the fact that, there's always these debates over whether the Norse people were good parents or not, or mostly, like, not so great or nurturing or anything like that, but what you do see is they did let them do dangerous things. The kids had to work, everyone had to do stuff, but
Yeah,
there
everyone
were
had a
no
job.
because of their communal way of life, all of facets of adult life, child participated in and saw, and from
Mhm.
making babies to having babies to, they could help with the meat, they could help with the sails or
Yeah.
the ship or all that kinda
Slaughter,
stuff.
the food, yeah, everything. The
Yeah, they could help with
latrines.
battle.
Uh-huh.
Their little swords, they probably, but, so I think there's something to that, that's how the child was always there figuring it out. I don't know,
And
I'm
then
not
are
being
you
very
leading
deep.
us to end with the footprint on the boat?
Yes! I wasn't leading us there, but that's what
You
I
just
was
did.
thinking about. Okay, Sarah,
So end with
get us
it.
there.
You do
Yes.
it. I don't
I
think I've
I
researched it enough.
well, one of the things that we'll learn in this preparation is while Gudrid is preparing, she's pregnant. So she not only is gonna get on the ship and go to the North Atlantic pregnant, right? We think?
We think.
Possibly?
Yeah.
Anyway, she had a baby once she got there. So there we know that children were on board these Viking ships and traveling with them and learning and a part of their society, and,
Do you want me to
they
find out Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yes, please find it out because I wasn't ready to talk about it, but
Okay.
we talked last week about, the birch bark drawings of the one child that had the picture of him and his dad with their he had his own little swords, and, um, children were just very much involved, and so in one of these boat burials that they were able to pull up, um, and one of the niche learning is fun to learn about graffiti of a civilization or a culture or things that they didn't mean for everyone to see
Right, yeah.
necessarily, just like everyday life. Do you have it?
Not yet.
Um, I think it was Heather Pringle, or it would have been I don't know who it was, but anyway,
Oh,
where is it? Oh, Barracloth, Embers of the
this one?
Hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she, Barraclough, I think Barraclouph is a pretty cool scholar. Um, right now I'm reading one of the books she wrote about Valkyries and warrior
Oh,
women, but
cool.
she always weaves in archaeological foundations with the mythical. She does that in a good way. But she talks about the ship that was found, and that's what we're trying to find. It. Let's see. Where is it? Yeah, let me find it. It's
Yeah,
footprint,
open it.
right?
Yeah, it's not in the she must have her actual EF. It's gonna be that easy? No. She wants to go with the
Hanging Netflix. Oh,
Wow, was it her?
was it the Oseberg ship? Maybe it wasn't her. I feel like it was
Maybe
her, but maybe not. Maybe it was the Northwoods lady.
I don't feel like Northwood's ever had like somebody
I don't.
actually has a drawing of it.
Yeah, I can see it in my head.
Maybe it's Neil Price.
Oh, so yeah. But he didn't write it cutesy. She wrote it kind of cute.
Yeah, I know. And I should have used her book more too for
I
she talks
forgot
about the
about that.
wool a lot too. The skis. Oh yeah. See, we're gonna have to talk about
Yeah,
um
and I have a whole.
the
I'll send
so
it
next
to
time do
you.
you want to talk more about travel? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, we could talk about what they would put in their ship. I don't
Yes.
know. I don't
Yeah, that
know.
for sure, because we're at 1 hour and 15. So let's make
Okay.
the next episode be what they're putting in the ship.
Yeah.
I talked
Yeah,
too
and
long on the sales.
I have on our Distaff no, the sales are so important, because you're right, and where you were going with it was cool because it's a mother and that links to the mystical stuff of the sales and the
Oh, yes. I'm so excited
blessings
for
that
that.
they put on it and all that, but why
Yeah.
can't.
Why can't we find the foot?
Okay.
I mean, we could just Google it. I'll just
Okay, let me
Google
see.
it. La, 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 la,
Oh,
la, la.
board Viking carved outline of foot. Uh, it was a
Somebody uses it
video.
to,
Would it have been a video?
no, somebody used it to sum up like a whole chapter.
I know. Hannah Onestad in the Viking Museum says, my guess is sometime or another person was bored and traced his foot with a knife.
Yeah, so the Svinfylking boar snout or swineray was a wedge-shaped foot formation used by Vikings. Oh no, that's not it. Holy cow, that's not it at all. That's how they fought. Viking foot.
Goatstad floorboards. A young and bored Viking carved an outline of his right foot on the floorboards of the Goatstad ship.
That's it, yeah.
But
890 AD. Maybe it's Neil.
oh, okay, 198, 199 on Neil. I don't see him being. Oh, yeah, he talks a lot about the runes, which we have to talk about.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, anyway, we can
Oh,
sum it
wait.
up in a beautiful way. We were touched by it.
Yeah.
So we
Yes.
know the boat. So the boat, it was found. Do you want to tell it?
You can tell it. Um, is it Oseberg or was it Goats?
Goats, Gokstad ship floor. It's a Viking boat in 890. So they found it. But what it is it's on a boat, a Viking boat, is a little foot outlined, carved into the boat, an outline of his little foot. And they can't explain why, right? There's a lot of speculation. Was it like you were saying, a bored little kid, for some reason put his foot there? Vikings were very, very into almost magically, if you claiming something made it almost take on extra powers or something.
Right.
So like
I
when
mean,
they find
yeah.
when they would to claim a spot of land. Now I'm going off. Just claim, but then we have to end. That's okay.
Hmm.
Um, to claim a spot of land, you wouldn't just put your name on it. You had to bury something there, right? And
Oh,
so
okay.
you had to bury a possession on a plot of land, and that's how you claimed your land. You had to put your name on something. They find combs and all these kind of artifacts
Yeah.
with just like Gudrid's cone,
Yeah.
comb, or this shield belongs to Sigrid, or so putting your name, putting your yourself on actual material things gave it kind of did something for them, made it
Yeah.
more powerful. It
Well, I
was
mean, they
using,
put their blood on a rune they carved
yeah,
too.
so it was almost
Yeah.
in a magical sense, a religious sense, or even just a logistical sense. So this little boy or girl carved her little foot on this big daddy boat, you know.
Yeah. With all the oarsmen and the shields and the
Yeah.
big talking going on
It's
and
like
just
the
the
kids in the
board.
back of my car drawing things, on the window. I have no idea what. I
Yeah.
drove like 1,200 miles with penises on the back of my window. so, so this little Viking kid is carving his foot on the floor of this ship, and it was found, 1,000
Along with
years
and
later.
taken seriously by archaeologists, and it's just a nice reminder that they were human,
Hmm.
and the fact that a kid with a foot that small traveled on a
Yeah,
ship
with
with
a
all that
knife.
industry behind it. Yeah.
Right. And all that industry, right, propelling
Yeah,
him on
all
his way.
behind it propelling him,
Hmm.
yeah, and a mother's blessing as she wove that sail,
Yeah,
get him across. Hopefully,
yeah.
she knew he was on there. I don't
Which,
know.
and it's interesting, yeah, because if self was put into possessions, if self was put into material things, then you're sailing under your mom's protection.
Yeah,
Literally, you could look up
yeah,
at the sail and think of your mom and your family, your wife,
mhm,
your farm,
totally.
your sheep, like everything that went into making that sail for you. It's kind of
So you're
cool.
not so alone in the world. I think that's what we do with history or genealogy is we're trying to think about
Yeah.
all the people
Connect.
that put themselves into our life, so we
Yeah.
could just drink Diet Coke and
Yes.
do
Shoot.
things.
Yeah. We're looking for our sails to look up to. What sailor
Yeah.
do you look up to? Yes.
Yes. All right.
Okay. So, all
Good.
right. So next time we talk more about packing, you're going to talk
Yes.
about all that. I'm
Let's
so
chat.
excited for
Do you
it.
want to
Okay.
too?
Yeah, I can.
You can do whatever you want to do.
Okay. Are you talking about the material stuff that goes in the boat and then the spells, the
That's
charms
what
and
I'm
things?
thinking.
I love it.
I have on the Distaff drive like stuff I've been gathering.
Okay, let's do it. I'll just be
I
ready to
don't know.
back you up. Ooh. Oh,
No,
come to distaffpodcast.com, distaffpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.